Hello friends, welcome back. My name is Alok Jain. I hope you have liked my early training videos. In today's session, we'll focus on performing addition operations within Excel. As we can see, there are three functions or formulas which are provided by Excel for addition of data. They are SUMIF, and SUMIFS. Most of us would already be aware about how to use sum, but let's spend a minute on how to use the sum function in Excel. So let's look at our data set. This is the data set for sales team, and the data is for the sales for the month of January and February, depending on where agents are located. So I have like the data for Amit for Delhi in the month of Jan is 2658, for Rajesh Delhi Jan 2688, and so on. So if I have to find out the total sales done during this period, what I will have to do, I will start writing equal to, I'll type sum, and I have the option to select number 1, number 2, number 3. But in this case, if I start typing each number separately, it will become quite painful exercise. So what I will do, I'll select the first number and I'll select the complete range, and I'll close the bracket and press enter. So this gives me the total sales volume done for this data set. So now let's complicate the problem a bit. I want to do the sum of sales volume for the month of January. So this data set is very small. I can probably select only the January data and will give me the summation. But in case this data volume is quite large, then it becomes quite difficult. So how do we solve this problem? For this, Excel has provided us a simple solution, which is SUMIF. So what I'll do, I'll use SUMIF, and I want to select the range in column D. I want to select the data for the month of January. So either I can type Jan, which is my criteria, or if I want to use the reference, I will use this relative reference of the cell, which is in D22. Then I'll select the data where my sales volumes are present. I'll complete the formula and I'll press enter. So this gives me the data for the month of January. Let's try to find it out for the month of February in the same fashion. I will again write SUMIF. I'll select this range in column D. I'll select my criteria as February, and this is my sales volume. I'll complete the data. So if you see here, we have selected the same range, but my numbers are different based on the input criteria. Now, if I have to validate, I'll just do a total, and I'll try to sum the two cells which have come up in the previous formula. And if you see, the number matches because there are January and February, and for January and February the total volume is 43873, which is equal to the number which we had earlier. So it makes it quite faster. Now let's complicate the problem a bit further. I want to find out the sales in Delhi for the month of January. In this case, we will have to use the next formula, which is SUMIFS. So what I will do, I'll start SUMIFS. S specify for the set of conditions. So earlier we were able to use only one condition. Now I can define n number of conditions for doing my summation. So it starts with defining the sum range, which is my sales volume in column E. Then I have to define the criteria range. So my first criteria range is location, which is in column C. And my criteria is in cell C26, which is Delhi. Then I will specify the criteria range 2, which is in column D. And then I'll specify my criteria, which is in column cell D26. I can specify more conditions, but right now my problem is to find for only the sales in Delhi for the month of January. So I'll close the formula and press enter. So now this gives me the sales for Delhi for the month of January. In case I want to find the sales for London, I'll just change this from Delhi to London, and you see the calculation changes. Now let's look at some of the complex scenarios where these operations become very powerful. So I have this facility expense table, and the data is for the each of the month for the last year, and I have different office IDs, and office ID, each office is of a certain type and based in a location. Now I want to calculate the expense for the sales offices for the month of January. So in this case I will again use sum if my range is in cell D, row column C. My criteria is in cell C23. My sum range is in column E, and I'll close the formula. Now I want to replicate the same formula for other columns. If I copy this, I get the result 0. Now this is because Excel uses relative references as default, and when we copy, the reference changes. So to overcome this problem, we'll have to use absolute references. So let's change the formula. Instead of relative reference here, we'll just make it absolute reference by putting in $sign. I'll put $sign here as well. This is also going to be fixed for each column, so this will again absolute reference, and this completes our formula. Now let's copy this formula for all of these cells. So this gives me the sum of sales offices expenses for the whole year segregated by each month. Now let's try to use SUMIFS on the same table. I want to find out the expense for the sales office in Bangalore. In this case, our SUMIF has limitation, and we'll have to use SUMIFS as there are two conditions. So first, my sum range is in column E. I'll select that. My criteria range, so my criteria is defined in column C, and I'll select that range. I'll make it as an absolute range. My criteria 1 is in cell C24. Then my second criteria is for the location, which is in column D. I'll select that. And my condition is in cell D24. I'll select that. And I will close the formula. And this gives me the expenses for the Bangalore sales office. Let's drag and copy the formula to all the other cells. And this gives me for each month how much expense has been done by the sales office in Bangalore. Let's try to change the location from Bangalore to Mumbai, and this gives me the number for Mumbai. For the service type, instead of sales, let's go for production. This gives me the number in this row. Okay. So as we can see, using these conditional sum formulae, I can do additions based on conditions, criteria, or set of criteria, which helps in generating various reports. From my experience, I can tell you that this is a very powerful function. It saves a lot of time while preparing reports and generating analysis. So I hope I was able to explain it well. That's all for today, and thank you for watching. Bye.